We already have 44 participants. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Manel, Ranjit. Good evening, Nilesh. Good evening from Abu Dhabi. Could you let us know where you are joining from? Good evening, Abu Dhabi fellas. Hi, Hafiz. Hello, Ranjit from Dubai. Micheline, India. Someone from India is joining. Good evening to you. Nilesh. Sharjah, Amit. Good evening from Sharjah. Ruwais, wow. Good evening, Dubai. Adarsh, good evening. Shaheen from Saudi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Hello from Tunisia. It's Manel from Tunisia. Hello. Alaikum salam. And by the way, while we are waiting for the others to join in, please let us interact, let us connect. You can drop your LinkedIn profile on the chat box and let us connect. Hey, someone from Vancouver, Amir. So Amir messaged the host and the panelists. So for everyone's info, someone from Vancouver is joining us today or tonight. Again, please drop your LinkedIn profile, our address in the chat, and let us connect. You can also find me on LinkedIn. My name is Irene Corpus in the LinkedIn. Okay, there you go. There's my profile. Let us connect. Adel from Abu Dhabi. Good evening. Also, if you have not done so, my colleague Amir has posted our social media channels. If you haven't done so, please click the like and subscribe so you will be notified whenever we have new posts in our social media channels. Also, again, while we are waiting, allow me to inform you of an upcoming face-to-face event of the PMI UAE chapter. It's going to be October 15, happening on October 15. It's an interesting talk about projects and portfolio, project docs and portfolio, in fact. If you're interested, please visit the PMI UAE chapter events and you will see the details in there. Kindly register and we look forward to meeting you all there face to face. October 15, Taj Dubai Hotel. Info can be found in pmiuae.org homepage. Okay. Dr. Mustafa. I hit 100, so I'm going to start.
Okay, great number.
Okay. So shall we start now, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Again, while we are waiting for others to come in, if you haven't done so, please click like and hit subscribe on our social media channels, okay? Good evening, good morning to all of you who are here tonight. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the PMI UAE chapter's webinar entitled Knowledge Management Role in Sustaining Successful Transformations. This will be delivered by our esteemed speaker, Dr. Mustafa Hafizoglu. My name is Irene Corpus and welcome to another webinar brought to you by the PMI UAE chapter. I will be your moderator for tonight. Before I proceed in giving a full introduction of our speaker, allow me to give you a brief about the PMI UAE chapter. This is most useful for the first-time attendees. If you would hold on for a while, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so for those who are not yet members of the PMI UAE chapter, we'd like to introduce to you our chapter. As an overall organization, the Project Management Institute was founded in 1969 by a group of working project managers. And after 50 years, PMI is still the source of all things about project management. It's the largest association of professional project managers around the world, and it offers training, accreditation, communities in each country, and a venue for publishing research, thought leadership, and knowledge content. Our UAE chapter vision is to empower and influence individuals with the innovative project economy principles to turn ideas into a reality. And our chapter mission is to disrupt and create value-driven opportunities to our chapter members and partners to become agile, innovative, productive in the platform for the growth of the project economy. Our PMI UAE chapter is run by 100% volunteers. All of us here, Dr. Mustafa, who coordinated with you, everyone behind the camera are all volunteers. We have 3,000 plus active chapter members, and we are ranked top 5th chapter in the PMI EMEA region. Our volunteers who are dependent on you to make our chapter activities as interactive and as invigorating as possible. Our PMI UAE chapter board members are here. You can see we are headed by the president, Dr. Adel Sultan, and the rest of the directors are also, you can see them here. As a PMI membership and benefits, you will get a digital access to PMI library, community engagement, exclusive members only events like the one. It is not an exclusive to the members, the one that's happening on October 15, but you'll get an access to that event for free. You get certification discounts and access to the PMI standards, Career Navigator, tools and templates, and much more. The benefits of the PMI UAE chapter are in 4 pillars. You have networking, learning and knowledge sharing, career growth, and events. Networking, learning, and knowledge sharing and events. This is one of the things that you'll get in this webinar, okay? So try to learn as much as you can, engage, interact, and network. We have our silver sponsors, Dubai Properties and Miraz, and we have a whole long list of collaboration partners in here to make and proceed to a lot of engaging activities for our chapter. For this webinar, you'll get 2 PDUs unit points, and please, it will take about 4 to 8 weeks to get the PDUs credited to your account. You will not need to claim it, but if it's beyond 8 weeks, please do follow up at the info@pmiuae.org. Okay, so I think if there are inquiries about the PDUs, let me answer them again later. Okay, so that's the PMI UAE chapter in a nutshell. But now we proceed to the webinar. Dr. Mustafa will have an uninterrupted 45 to 50 minutes of presentation. And while Dr. Mustafa delivers the webinar, we encourage you to please post your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll give you a heads up, Dr. Mustafa, if we see more questions, so we have time to answer all of them as much as possible. And for our attendees, you may also interact with the co-attendees by posting your thoughts on the chat and engage with one another. Now I know you are very eager to meet our speaker, Dr. Mustafa. Dr. Mustafa is a knowledge management expert, author, instructor, and strategy implementation professional with 25 years of experience in aerospace, defense, electronic, and manufacturing. He is also the co-founder and past president of PMI Turkey chapter and representative of the KMI Knowledge Management Institute in the MEA region. He's been teaching project management courses at various universities, such as the Middle East Technical University and TED University. Mustafa is the core team member for PMI's Practice Guide, Governance of Project Programs and Portfolios, and core team member for the PMI Practice Guide, Benefits Realization Management. Dr. Mustafa has been organizing the only PMO Summit in Turkey for 5 years now. So ladies and gentlemen, can't wait to hear about knowledge management role in sustaining successful transformation. The floor is yours, or the visual stage is yours, Dr. Mustafa. You're on mute. You're on mute, Doctor.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Irene. I'm very glad to be presenting in this webinar. Thank you for the invitation. Today we will be talking about knowledge management from the perspective of project management field, as well as some transformational change. And when I started talking about knowledge management with project management professionals and asked them what knowledge management means to them, I will not ask you because I'm always sure, I'm almost sure about the answer, because most of them reply always include lessons learned. So, but I have another questions. I decided to start my presentation with these magical keywords which I mentioned, lessons learned. So why do I say magical? I will explain it in a few minutes later. But first, I would like to ask you a simple question. Since we all have different experiences and different perspectives, I'm sure when I say lessons learned, that may mean different to each of us. So may I just ask you to write one word or two words on this question. So what lessons learned mean to you? With one word or two words, please, in the chat box. So may I see your answers? Experience. What went well? Improvise for the future. Learning. Improvement areas. Library of information. Down and up. Future proofing. Risk mitigation. Voice breaking. What went wrong? Opportunities. Avoiding mistakes. Knowledge transfer. Failures. Facing challenge. Learn from mistakes to avoid in future or phases. Implications, process review, updating knowledge, try and learn, reference, finding risks, learning, applied learning, experience from past activities, how we handled risks, learn and unlearn, trend analysis, mistakes, reuse, learning and share experience, overcoming challenges. Continuous improvement, great. So today, great answers. I will try to cover all these keywords which just received from you. Preventive of mistakes, defects in this webinar, and try to actually end up with a call to action regarding with how to make these lessons learned to contribute to a learning organization, creating a learning organization. So let me then start with the link between lessons learned and knowledge management. From my perspective, knowledge management includes capability to leverage your lessons learned in a systematic way. So it is not only related with project management field, which contributes to knowledge management. with lessons learned. But also we have program portfolios as well as operations. So all these kind of fields should contribute to knowledge management field. So lessons learned is from project management perspective, an important aspect, but it is not the only one. But here we have also a keyword, a systematic way. So what does that mean? We will be today talking about that systematic perspective. So let me start with my journey on my knowledge management in this project management fields. So one of the answers also included knowledge transfer. So that was one of my key points that I started my journey in this field. In 2013, I established the project management office in my company and discovered that this establishing a project management office gave us a broader perspective. So to be able to see the big picture in the organization. So one of the key outcomes of this perspective was this quota: knowledge isn't power unless you are able to use it. So we have lessons learned documents, we have lots of made mistakes, we think that we learned from them, but knowledge isn't power unless you are able to use it. So we started talking about, working about that. So looking back on my 25 years of project management experience, I can see that my team and I have used these keywords, lessons learned, in a variety of contexts, such as you mentioned, most of you mentioned, when we made a mistake, we said this was lessons learned to our even project sponsors to just mitigate the negative outcomes of those mistakes. Or when we need support from the other projects or other part of the organizations, we ask their lessons learned to support our project management execution or the products. So this is such a magical word you can use in different contexts to help to support your project management processes. So as the PMO, we aim to find a way to transfer knowledge between the projects. I always start with simple steps and approach in these kind of change processes or projects. So we identified the reusability in our projects. So few of the answers also included reusability. We had various projects ongoing at the same time, some finished, some still going, but after establishing this project management office, we have realized that there are some parts that can be reused for the upcoming projects or ongoing projects. So that was actually, that could be a very simple touching point to improve some processes in the other or upcoming projects. So firstly, it was technical knowledge usability. So we have different modules that could be reusable, but then we realized that there are also some reusable items like from the project management field, such as customer behaviors, customer expectations. We have realized that once we complete a project with a customer, specific customer, we have gained some knowledge, experience, which also some of our attendees just mentioned, experience regarded with that customer, like it's how, what does that customer expect? What is his or her behaviors in some conflicting situations or challenging situations? That was a very great knowledge. So we started to collect and reuse that knowledge, experience for the upcoming projects. Since the projects, the teams, the project managers of the upcoming projects were different. So giving that simple but very valuable information regarding with the customer also was very valuable. So 3 years ago, I presented a webinar on redefining project success. But before that, let me just also show the knowledge transfer framework that we have used once we started this steps using by reusability. So we actually identified and used some knowledge brokers in order to collect the experience, not only the information, the documentation, but the knowledge, specifically the experience part that is not written, but mostly in the minds of the team members, in the minds of the employees. That was the challenging part. So we identified specific knowledge brokers. I will also explain how we should approach in order to identify knowledge brokers. We need to understand the network perspective other than the hierarchical perspective in our organizations in order to identify knowledge brokers. So we created a knowledge bank, and we identified some metrics to assess whether we are going on the right path. We categorize knowledge, and we really put this into action in order to transfer knowledge in a successful way in this case. So 3 years ago, recently almost, I presented a webinar on redefining project success. This webinar has been watched over 10,000 project management professionals all around the world. And it was an attempt to redefine the project success, which was traditionally including scope, cost, and schedule. So do you identify benefits like you identify your stakeholders or risks at the beginning of your projects or in the planning phase? Unfortunately, most of the organizations do not identify the expected benefits. They do not plan how to realize the benefits. So because, as you know, we have a challenge of time dependency. That is, projects are by definition temporary. So we start the projects and then we end the projects. And after the project completion, actually, the benefits are being realized in terms of impacting customer, in terms of business success, in terms of preparing for the future. So may I ask you a question then? What about lessons learned? So we should consider also lessons learned that we have identified as a benefit to the organization, because we contribute to the future of the organization with our lessons learned. So by identifying that benefit, should that be also a success definition of our project? So would it be logical, or would it be preferred to be evaluated or assessed with that specific benefit, lessons learned, as a project manager? So this is challenging because project manager's job is done as the project is completed. But lessons learned, the effect of lessons learned, the outcome of the lessons learned are collected after the project completion. So that is the challenging time. So that is the most critical thing that prevents project management perspective being not very close to the lessons learned and benefit part, but away from that mindset. So we have this challenge in redefining project success, but we have to consider these definitive definitions in order to adapt to the upcoming knowledge age requirements, which we will be talking about. So we have today, from knowledge management perspective, three main episodes, chapters. We will be finalizing our presentation, this webinar, with the aim of how to create learning organization. So we are actually aiming to create a learning organization with this knowledge management perspective or discipline. So we will be talking about methodologies, some to perform knowledge management. So focus on creating a learning organization. So in order to achieve that, in the first place, I will just speak about on the rational side for this transformation need, for this knowledge age part. So what are the essentials for this transformation? And then I will explain the employee engagement side. So we have people side, process side, technology side, but which are really critical in this knowledge management transformation or knowledge age transformation part. So this will be the agenda that we'll be talking about. So in the people, process, and technology triad, the people component will dominate, it says we will be talking about. So for people, traditional skills and competencies, which we will call aptitudes, will be largely dominated by attitudes, that is passion, purpose, mindset. So there is much proven untapped human potential. We will be talking about this. So let's start with transformation. So is knowledge management just another discipline as presumed by most, or is it a transformation enabler? In the beginning, like mid-1990s, knowledge management was unclear. Was it to be just some IT applications focused on knowledge, or it was like thought to be a new discipline in that time? Later, in the earlier 2000s, the issue became even more clouded. So is knowledge management just another discipline as presumed by most, or was knowledge management as a discipline or a transformation enabler? So if so, a transformation to what? So in order to answer those questions, let's have a look at the episodic shifts in age, starting from the transformation of material in the earlier age. Then after 1780s, we have water power, steam power, electric power, combustion power, all for transforming energy. And after the 1970s, we started a new age called information age, which aims to transform information. And after 2008, now we have completed communicating and storing information side. We are very good at it. Now we are at computing information in terms of knowledge and algorithms, which we in general call it a knowledge age. So our present situation is knowledge is the main source of wealth. So knowledge is the power. So transformation then becomes an imperative, a must, in order to capture the value in this new knowledge age. So we ask the question of a transformation to what? Since knowledge age is all about knowledge, we talk that knowledge is power. So knowledge management is the logical and requisite discipline. The recent knowledge age has been enabled by the emergence of knowledge power and defined by major changes in human occupations. So the focus becomes to be the human, on the human. Transformation and change in human occupations is the transformation, is the core part of this transformation. And knowledge age differentiates aptitudes, which is the fourth industrial age skills, competencies, from attitudes, knowledge age mindsets, which include motivations, passions, purpose. So this is the emerging as a great differentiator in human performance. So since it is all about knowledge management is interdisciplinary and needs experts from all disciplines, especially project managers. So most of you may remember Peter Drucker's famous word, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So Knowledge Management Institute's founder Douglas Weiner paraphrases Peter Drucker as attitudes eat aptitudes for breakfast in knowledge age. Let me just remind what we mean with attitudes, knowledge age mindset, motivations, passions, purpose. Aptitudes is the fourth industrial age skills and competencies in the information age side. So in this transformation, is it enough to have a transformation expert, or do we need a transformational knowledge management expert? Transformation requires much more than merely overcoming a disruptive technology. It requires as well attention to improved performance, health or culture, and sustainability, which we may call ability to survive in the long term in the knowledge age. So a transformation expert may be able to transform an organization, but to what end if the factor of the knowledge age is not embedded in the transformation? Many transformation experts now define the end goal as a knowledge sharing and learning organization. So we need some specific experts on this transformation. No, that's why we need knowledge managers in this transformations in order to reach to a learning organization. So get the best knowledge to the right person at the right time is the new paradigm. So when we talk about knowledge, I have just observed from the answers that most of our attendees are aware of the difference between data, information, and knowledge. So the main thing that makes knowledge valuable is the experience part. So that is the challenging part in this knowledge age, because especially when we call the tacit knowledge, which is mostly in the mind of the employees, it is really difficult to motivate or to make employees to share their knowledge to the right person at the right time. And even if it is shared, also we have a challenge of using that information, that knowledge, that experience in the right time, in the right way. So the challenging part is really huge. So we have that challenge currently. But even if we have that challenge in front of us in this new age, much of our day, around 20 to 30%, is spent trying to find the data, information, and knowledge you need to get your job done. So even if we have challenge in finding the right data and information according to these surveys done by McKinsey, Interact, and IDC. So we must resolve this persistent, unique knowledge age need first. So we have people, processes, and technology in this knowledge management headline perspective. Let me talk about, or first of all, ask about, in this knowledge age, from your perspective, which one would you think that the most important? People, process, or the technology? Could you please just write down your opinion on the chat box? Which one is the most critical one, or the most important one in the upcoming time. So people, all three. People. So there's a majority of our attendees, people, IC processes. People, all important. And I see also one technology. And there's also one comment. So Irene sees all three interdependent, people and process. People is the most complex to deal with. I agree with this, Sahar. Amir says technology as well as we excel through AI changes. Yes, that's also a challenging part that we will be facing with ICT, process, people. So although most of our attendees mentioned people, as Sahar mentioned, people cannot be controlled unlike tech. We have answers from process side and technology side, and some also mentioned that all three are important. Of course, all three are important. Let me then discuss these three: people, processes, and technology from knowledge age perspective. So in the early 20th century, technology was important, but process might have been dominant. Thinking about starting with 1920s or 30s, considering Ford Motors assembly line. But by the late 20th century, then technology, especially the computer, was certainly dominant in this information age. Maximizing engagement and leveraging traits, we have all the information we need actually. Now, the challenging part from the processes and the technology part are almost done. Because now we have processes, technology, they are more mature than before. But what are we going to do with the processes, the huge data that we are gained from the technology? So we need data analytics. So we need our minds. So we are now actually, from the human occupation perspective, getting from muscle strength to the brain strength. So this is the actually summary of the whole story. That's why people are gaining more importance. In the knowledge age, people are emerging as the determining factor in organizational performance, culture, and sustainability. So organizations should be seeking ways on how to engage their employees. So engagement will be the key. So there are really ways to evaluate human capital maturity or engagement in the organizations, because it is proven that engaged people love their job and its environment, and they far outperform their contemporaries. But first, let me ask you again a simple question. What do you think are the average engagement levels around the world? So could you please tell me the percentage of employees are engaged as defined above? I mean, engaged people love their job and its environment, and they far outperform their contemporaries. May I have your guesses? 40, less than 15, 10, 30, 37, 20, below 50. Oh, there are some 80s and 70s, but mostly it's around 20 to 30. Thomas is very near. Yeah, 30. So I agree, Irene. It is not high, but low. So typically under 25 to 30%. So that is one of the key problems that organizations should deal. But most of the organizations are even not aware of this challenge. They do not focus on these type of, they don't have any thinking of evaluating and increasing the level of the engagement. So there's a problem of awareness. And the companies who are aware of the importance of this in this knowledge age and who will really invest on this will be gaining competitive advantage in the near future. So let me then prove why this engagement is the most important, is becoming most important thing in the coming days with this analogy, checkers or chess. So may I ask you again, would you like to play checkers or chess? Who are in favor of checkers? Who are in favor of chess? Could you please just quickly write in the, yes, chess. So I used this presentation, this slide also, and asked the same question in the Global Project Management Conference in Riyadh in June. And most of the attendees answered chess, but I see checkers also here. So I'm also happy because I'm also fan of checkers as well as the chess. So what is the difference? What is the difference between checkers and chess? So the answer to this question will also help us to understand why we need engagement. So both take strategy. So both you aim to win, but real difference is in the nature of the pieces. Checkers, look at that. All pieces are the same. So essentially how assembly line workers were thought of in the industrial age. So pieces per hour or whatever was the assembly line standard. On the other hand, in the chess, essentially all different. So knowledge workers in the knowledge age and modern science confirms this. Hence, the substantial differentials in engagement and traits and ultimately in performance. So you as project managers also face with it, experience this. In the projects, you have various types of different team members from different functions, different disciplines. I have managed various research and development projects throughout my career, and I have design engineer in my team, production engineer, system engineer, software engineer, even marketing specialist. So from different departments, and we need all those functions to work for a common goal in our project. So nowadays, in the knowledge age, all the pieces are different. So that's why we need this human engagement. And this is a simple model for untapped human potential. What we are actually talking about is all about to be able to utilize, leverage this untapped knowledge age potential. So this hypothetical model shows knowledge increasing over a person's career life cycle, including both starting with technical skills, which we may call hard skills, and behavioral skills, which no doubt increase over a career. Now, it includes interpersonal leadership, management skills. Nowadays, PMI calls it power skills. What is often ignored, but now known to be true, is that change in a person's mindsets, motivations, and patience can substantially improve their knowledge and performance. Think attitudes versus just aptitudes slide. So knowledge age has a potential, needs to be able to use this potential, personal mastery and engagement, mindset, motivation, and passion. And now, when it comes to our organizations, managers, okay, we have hierarchical organizational styles, but we have also networks. So which is based on the relationships between our employees. And most of the information and knowledge is actually traveling within those informal networks. So as a project manager or knowledge manager, or as a professional, if you are not aware of the network of your organization, if you are not able to effectively use the right people in this communication and relational networks, then you will not be able to achieve what is needed to be able to create a learning organization. Let me talk about it a little bit, because my PhD thesis is related with this social network analysis. So as you know, when we talk about stakeholder management, we have some methodologies using stakeholder power interest matrix. We generally look at the attitudes of the stakeholders, whether they have a power or whether they have an influence, and we try to prioritize the stakeholders based on their power and interest, and we try to manage them based on these two main attitudes. But what about their relational powers? Even if a stakeholder may have a power in terms coming from hierarchy, like project sponsor or customer, but if he or she is not very effective in this informal network, then maybe you will not be able to manage the whole project stakeholders effectively. So my thesis actually proposes a new framework to make a new evaluation for the stakeholders based on this social network analysis. And by this analysis, actually, you are able to identify some basic critical persons which has a high degree in the social network, meaning that lots of connections in the people, and you have some betweenness and closeness centrality people, meaning that some people are very popular because they are connected with very other popular people. So this is important because in order to capture information and knowledge, or in order to distribute knowledge, if you just tell that knowledge or information to that person, it is distributed in a very short time. So this is really critical from this knowledge management side. So now our aim, as I mentioned, is to be able to create a learning organization by engaging the employees and achieving this transformational change. So let me also quickly summarize the methodologies that will be very helpful to perform knowledge management. So there are knowledge management in this situation, different approaches, and one of the mostly proven and beneficial approach is KMI's Knowledge Management Institute's 5-step methodology in order to perform this knowledge management. So the main logic is create knowledge imperative. And it is actually showing a change management process, but a transformational change. So it starts with an awareness campaign. So start the change with the awareness campaign, communication, learning plans, and then plan this transformation. There are some approach and methods like Mature and KM Solutions Matrix. I will just show it in a few minutes in a quick way to show you the transfer planning part. And by using case studies, guidance, tools, calculating ROIs and implementation plans, designing and justifying is the next step. And then comes implementing transformation strategies, knowledge management goals, and it also requires a continuously improvement phase with knowledge management balls and squirrels. So this is the advanced knowledge maturity model called Mature. Let me highlight some research results. Here, in the period between 1995 and 2010, a large-scale change success was estimated at 30%, according to John Kotter. Estimates now are closer to 79%, according to McKinsey, especially if techniques such as those in Mature are used as prescriptions. Here you can see some numbers. These numbers, such as 7.3 times or 6.3 times, mean you are 7.3 or 6.3 times more likely to be successful if you master and accomplish these specific activities. For example, if you use performance metrics, if you can identify metrics and use them and track the process in this transformation, it means that you are 7.3 times more likely to be successful in this transformation. Or if you have transparency and if you achieve to create a two-way communication, it means that you are 4.0 times more likely to be successful in this transformation. So establishing a continuous learning process 2.6 times, incorporating knowledge sharing 4.2 times, learning plan and skills 2.4 to 3.2 times more likely to succeed. So it's time to call to action. Knowledge management is an emerging but already maturing discipline. We know how to do it. Many opportunities will present themselves as we transform into the knowledge age. However, the knowledge management profession needs many experienced project managers who can manage complex processes such as these kind of transformations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa. I can say that I'm recalling one of my past professions. As I mentioned, I was a certified knowledge manager 10 years ago. But in fact, I became a CKM because I had to manage a project. So I'm having some comments here, actually. Abdurrahman was saying, interesting. Okay, one of the things, by the way, guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A. But in fact, while you are presenting, Dr. Mustafa, there are some questions being sent to me directly. No? One of the key questions here is, you mentioned that KM is an emerging but already a matured industry or profession. How do you see the KM or knowledge management industry or profession leading into or merging with artificial intelligence? You know, we cannot get away with AI anymore. Knowledge or data is being fed into an application, and this application, let's just say the ChatGPT, it's the one that shares the knowledge after processing all the data and information within. So can you give us an insight on that, please?
Sure. So this is a really very good question in terms of the reason why knowledge management will become more important, because the answer says that when we talk about knowledge, the critical part, the valuable part of this keyword is experience, as some of our attendees already mentioned. When I asked what do you understand from lessons learned, they just wrote down experience. So artificial intelligence will be very useful, because you will not be able to think about how to analyze data, because the data will be analyzed and it will be put in front of you. But in order to make the right decision, you will be able to use the experience which AI will not have.
Yeah.
So the next question may come, then AI may just learn from the past experiences, and then it will be a new actually challenge for the employees. But that will also take a very huge time. Maybe the next challenge, we will be talking about not artificial intelligence, AI, but knowledge intelligence, so some other phase, but we are not at that yet. So that's why I'm also always mentioning that now we are just transferring from muscle power to brain power.
Brain power.
Brain power. So artificial intelligence will just replace all the muscle powers. And now we have our knowledge, experience to be able to use in our projects or in our other organizational functions. So the ones who will be able to use artificial intelligence very successfully, and his or her experience will be very, how can I say, will be very lucky or successful.
Great. Again, I agree with you. There's still a challenge in thinking whether to go on, let's say, collecting those knowledge manually or doing the AI thing, because again, doing the AI, it's just muscle, but doing the KM, it's the brain power. And sometimes we can challenge the ChatGPT. Sometimes I try to put a question which I know could be answered wrong by a ChatGPT, and indeed I'm right with saying that when the ChatGPT answers it wrong, I would say, unfortunately, the answer is wrong. Straightforward, I would say that. And it will just say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have enough information after this year, etc. Okay, there's one note here and question from Robinson. Especially in these busy schedules at work, the very need for KM is always considered as a lowest priority, even in leading companies in the UAE. What is your key advice for these kinds of organizations?
This is one of the great challenges of the organizations. They are very busy. But we have lots of companies in the history. I say it in the history. They were very successful and busy, but now they are in the history because they were not able to adapt to the new challenges in the new age. So organizations should be aware of this. So that's why I ended up with my presentation with this call to action.
Call to action, yeah.
So we need to start these transformations, and project managers can achieve this start and can increase the awareness because they are very skillful in these kind of transformational complex projects. So increasing awareness, starting with increasing the awareness and communicating the crucial role of this transformation is very critical.
Yeah, but isn't it that the increasing of awareness should come from the top management itself? Therefore, to get the buy-in to implement or go into KM is also a challenge. Someone from the leadership needs to be the driver for this transformation.
I agree, but if it is not the case, if top management has some other type of priorities and are not very aware, we should not give up. We have actually tools to make them be aware of this priority. So I would say that I would not give up and try to increase and increase the awareness and make them really look at from our perspectives.
Okay. I have 4 questions more, Dr. Mustafa. Again, I mentioned earlier that I need to tell you how much questions are we expecting so we can manage the time. So another question from Mohammed. What is the best methods to collect tacit knowledge?
So this is the challenging part. First of all, you need to create an environment of trust. So if you'd like to collect, you don't need a system first, but you need to get people engaged. By engaging people, actually, you start creating a culture of trust. Without creating that culture of trust, meaning that when someone shared his experience, including his or her mistakes, if he or she feels that he will not be punished because of that, then people will be just joining to share. Otherwise, no systems, no templates, no other things can help us to collect that.
Tacit, yeah. This is the second part that you mentioned, no? The number 1 is transformation, 2 is employee engagement. So it is in the employee engagement where that can be implemented, right? Am I right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, another question from Hiral. I very well understand the importance of knowledge management, but how are big companies willing to hire knowledge management professionals? What are the current numbers? Future prospective career here, KM professional, no?
So when I look at the data from Knowledge Management Institute, I remember over 10,000 certified knowledge managers worldwide now. So it's increasing. And I know that large companies like NASA, so that huge space agency actually has a chief knowledge officer at the top. So that is a sign of how some really big companies look at this and understand the importance. And mostly, as far as I can see, North American companies are really focusing on this. European companies, there's a start, but we are at the beginning from my perspective. But knowledge age requires us to focus on this. So there is a huge challenge, but there's a huge opportunity as well for all of us, for project managers, to achieve these kind of transformations.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So those who are looking at another career change, but embedding still project management, you can have a look at the knowledge management. It's with the KM Institute, no? Dr. Mustafa, Knowledge Management Institute. You can find it.
KMI Institute.
Yeah. I'm from anonymous attendee. With all the many projects being handled by an organization, though we have established the knowledge management, would it be a good means to establish a culture of learning within the organization?
Sure, culture of learning, actually, what we try to achieve, which I mentioned, creating a learning organization. So we learn in our projects. So lessons learned is a sign of that, actually. But the question is whether we are able to put that knowledge, lessons learned, to the organization. And second question, whether the organization can make it usable for the future coming projects. So if we can achieve this, then we create this learning organization. And I agree, we should focus on creating a culture of learning. I agree with that.
Yeah. And what is the biggest barrier to effective knowledge management? This is from Chandra. The biggest barrier to effective knowledge management.
This human mind. The barrier is in our minds. We are really, as human beings, cannot, how can I say, this is the barrier that we create to the change. So we do not want to change, but we need to make some change in order to get to this knowledge age phase. So it is our minds, the biggest barriers, our mindsets. We have to first change that, then we see that everything is possible.
So if I need to implement a knowledge management, and because that is a mindset that we need to change, as you mentioned, Doctor, therefore I would need to have a change manager first who will roll out this change.
Definitely.
Collaboration of change management and knowledge management. Another question from someone who do not want to be identified: what would be the liability if there is a role for knowledge management? Good question. Good question.
So,
so the question is, what is the
liability?
So
I try to understand what he or she may mean with the liability.
I think when you chose, I don't know if I understand this correctly, but when you show the chess and the checkers, some of our participants said here that chess has roles and responsibilities. Okay. Along with the roles and responsibility is an accountability. So if you are an accountable knowledge manager, what could be a possible liability that would be on your on you as a role in your role? I think see. This is what it means here.
Yes. Yeah, I can understand now very well. So knowledge manager role actually requires a good to become a good communicator. So I mentioned the social network or informal network within the organization. So so this knowledge manager should become a knowledge broker, so that that is one of the key things, to be able to connect with the people and collect the necessary knowledge, and then distribute that knowledge to the ones who really need that knowledge at the right time. So that may be the critical role for an
critical role. Yeah. I'm sorry, Doctor. I said I had 4 questions. The audience are becoming more interested with the discussion. 2 more, okay? 2 more. Okay. And this is the 2 last questions. How do you verify the secured knowledge? If stored information becomes obsolete, it can cause catastrophe in many processes. Another good question from Adarsh.
So secured knowledge and secured information, secured data. So these may be some challenging differences, but when I think about secured knowledge, so there is a actually danger of so when we start creating a knowledge organization, actually a great valuable amount of knowledge is stored in the organization. So whether this knowledge is a secured one, it is actually I have no information about how to make it secure, but from this question, I also understand the other way. So how can you make it secure that it is not shared with the other competitors? Because it is very, very valuable. valuable than the information and the data that is stored in the organization.
Yeah, patents, for example. No?
So that is also, in my opinion, that will be also a new occupational area, new career path that may create from that perspective. So that we may have some knowledge gates, knowledge gatekeepers, types of new because the surveys, the research mentioned that in the coming 5 years there will be lots of job titles lost and new ones will come.
Yes.
So this
to
may
be created,
be one of the new ones. So.
Oh, great to know. So the last question, okay, last question from Ahmed. How does knowledge management contribute to innovation and competitiveness within an organization? So KM contributing to innovation and competitiveness.
Yes, very great question. In 2 ways. First of all, when we talk about innovation, we need a culture of trusted environment, engaged people, the people who can express their opinions and share their knowledge in a very trustful environment. So with knowledge management perspective, with this mindset, this environment is already created. So innovation can be achieved more quickly and in a more effective way. Another perspective, so anyone who has an idea can just check different perspectives, different experiences within the organization and implement that idea in a very faster way. So from these 2 perspectives, knowledge management will boost innovation. In my opinion.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, a lot of learning. Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa, for gracing our webinar. Indeed, a very interesting topic, a new one, in fact. So great session. Thank you for the comments of our attendees here. This webinar will be published at the PMI UAE chapter's YouTube channel in about 2 weeks. And for those who are interested to get a copy of the presentation, Dr. Mustafa, you may share your presentation to us. And our colleague here, Amir, will also share it back to the attendees. So to all of you, as we close the webinar tonight, I would like to thank you all for your participation. Indeed, you are amazing attendees. You are engaging, you are commenting. Thank you very much also for your questions. As always, the success of every PMI UAE chapter event, whether virtual or face-to-face, is through the collaboration of all the volunteering teams. This includes our colleagues from marketing, membership, outreach, volunteering, finance, and governance. Until our next webinar, and please don't forget to register for our upcoming October 15th face-to-face event. We'll all see you there. Together with my events colleagues supporting you all behind the camera, Mr. Amir Ali, Pervez, Monica, and on behalf of our Director of Events, Bhavin Lad, this is Irene Corpus wishing you all a pleasant evening. Good night.